Mirror, mirror on the wall, was this the most disappointing panto of them all? So far? Maybe. Hear me out. Oh my god, hey! Welcome back to my Stager YouTube channel. If you are seeing my face for the first time, hello, my name is Mickey Joe and I am obsessed with all things theatre. And this is my YouTube channel where I review the shows that I have been invited to see here in the UK as a professional freelance theatre critic, and I talk about theatrical news and drama and gossip happening worldwide. Oh, I just flicked my pom-pom. Oh, now it's a game. Ow. That was always going to happen. For the past few weeks, I have been snowed under, seeing Christmas shows. Wait, I forgot my seasonal greeting. Ho ho ho, my god, hey. Oh, everything is ruined. If I don't have puns, what do I have? But like I said, I have been seeing so many festive shows, including a bunch of pantomimes. I think thus far I have seen 5 different pantomimes, all various different sort of types of pantomime, and different vibes and in different places. And this was one of the more traditional regional theatre pantomimes. This was at the new Wimbledon Theatre in London, and this was Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and that's what I'm going to be talking to you about today. Now, if you enjoyed today's video, make sure that you subscribe to my Stager YouTube channel. I post reviews of shows that I go and see all the time, and I talk about all the other things happening in the theatre world as well. If you think you would vibe with those kinds of videos, make sure to subscribe. Also, you can go and find me on other social media platforms. I am on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Mickey Joe Theatre. Now, I've opened with a bold statement, and this video probably has a bold title and or thumbnail, so let's talk about why I was disappointed by the new Wimbledon Theatre pantomime. So first of all, you all know how I love context and a disclaimer. I don't want to make you wait too much longer before I talk about the specifics of this pantomime, but I do want to say that when we're criticising theatre, when you have something like a hard-hitting new play, people expect a range of diverse perspectives. And I think as theatrical productions drift more towards the sort of broad family entertainment and more light-hearted and fun and campy things, you expect less discerning criticism from reviewers. And I don't think that that's necessarily correct. You know, you're very much not surprised to see a really thorough exploration of the dramaturgy and the intentions and the motivations and the underlying themes of a dramatic play. And then I see a lot more criticism of reviewers taking issues with musicals because people are like, oh, well, the songs are good and the dancing was fun. How can you criticize it? It was fun. I enjoyed it. And then specifically with pantomimes, I think it's very difficult to point out shortcomings in a pantomime. And yet, for so many audiences, panto is perhaps the only theatre they go and see in a year. Panto is huge here in the UK. It fills up regional venues like few touring productions are able to, and it sells out much longer runs as well. For so many children, this is their first experience of theatre. So I'm insistent that as well as being fun and campy and silly and a little bit insincere, it also has to be good, because you can do good pantomime. I've reviewed good pantomime already here on my channel. Like I told you, I've seen 5 in the past few weeks. So without sounding completely obnoxious, I do think it's important to still have a discerning critical perspective, even on something like pantomime. So you have waited long enough. I'm going to tell you why I didn't enjoy this pantomime as much as I was hoping that I would. So it wasn't completely tragic. It wasn't awful. I am giving this a 3-star review. Like I said, it was disappointing because with the people involved, I think I even posted about this on social media, this was a really exciting pantomime cast. You had musical theatre legends. You had rising star of Heathers and of TikTok, Hannah Lowther, alongside Mead of Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat and Any Dream Will Do TV series fame. You have theatre legend and grande dame and diva Ruthie Henshall. You have Brenda Edwards. You have Dick and Dom. You have Matthew Kelly. You have, who's the other guy? John Archer. John Archer! You had a lot of really big names in this pantomime, so I was very excited. But for 2 real main reasons, I was just let down by this. One was the music, and I'm going to elaborate more on why that was, and the other was sort of the structure and the characters. And I have a few more specific notes outside of those 2 things, but those are the 2 really big bullet points. And as well as that, I just miss a lot of the usual panto tropes as well. I wanted us to be more engaged and involved as an audience, given more things to say and do. And it just became very clear as we were going along that not every moment worked. Not every moment even felt necessarily completely pantomime. There were some characters and some scenes that really worked in a pantomime way and others that just didn't, that were just sort of bland, theatrical, fairy tale storytelling that looked like panto and sounded like panto, but they had none of the fun and none of the creativity and none of the charm. So let me tell you a little bit more now about the characters and the structure of this show. So we open with the 7 dwarves, and they refer to themselves as the Magnificent Seven. It's not clear if they can't say dwarves because it's on the poster and it's on the programme, so I don't know what that's about. If anyone was curious and or concerned at this point, these are actors using the Lord Farquaad from Shrek-esque costumes where they're kneeling on knee pads and they have little shoes coming out the front of their knees and cloaks going to the back of their feet, and that's how they're depicting the dwarves. So the dwarves tell us this little prologue. As a collective, we learn that they all have different personalities that closely resemble the Disney adjectives that are their names while being different. They aren't mentioned in the programme, but it's something akin to grumpy has become angry or something similar to that. I think sleepy is drowsy. And so the Magnificent Seven dwarves tell us that they are going to be telling us this story of Snow White. And after that, we do not see them again for a very long time. And they tell us exactly none of this story. We then cut to the present day with Snow White and the Evil Queen and a prince who is arriving. And Snow White meets this prince and she is stubbornly refusing to just immediately fall in love with him just because that's what everyone expects her to do, and he feels similarly, and then they instantly fall in love because it's panto, and that's fine. And thereafter, the two of them scarcely have a personality, and they're the prince and princess characters, so I don't begrudge that much. It's the rare panto and it's the rare fairy tale story, to be honest, that manages to give a prince and princess a personality. I appreciate it hugely when it happens, but it's a pretty standard trope that they will just be blandly in love with each other and sing sweetly and look beautiful and charming and have nothing else to say. Someone who does have plenty to say is the Evil Queen / MILF. Ruthie Henshall is playing the Evil Queen, and because she is the Snow White Evil Queen, she is one who is beautiful and wants to ensure that she is still the most beautiful in all the land. And as a caveat to this, the newly arriving prince will obviously want to marry her instead because she's already married the old king and got his money. Now she's going to marry younger and enjoy herself in her waning years. And I feel like if nothing else, you have to respect that. And in order to ensure that she's still the most beautiful in the kingdom or the fairest in all the land, she has this magic mirror that she calls upon for literally every single issue in her life, even when it's something she could very easily solve herself, and she announces it, and there's this huge visual effect, and then this, I mean, I guess it's still like her height, but on the very big stage it looks very small. This little teensy mirror comes down and makes me laugh, and doesn't tell her what she wants to hear, basically. Now, Snow White was orphaned at this point and is not described necessarily as being lonely, but we're supposed to get the idea that she is. She has 50 million different friends because she has Nurse Nellie, her friend who is a dame, and she has Oddjob, her friend who works in the castle, and also Dick and Dom, who are played by Dick and Dom. I thought it was bad enough that Lee Mead is being called Prince Lee, but that at least is a pun because he's princely. Dick and Dom playing Dick and Dom is the height of low-effort pantomiming to me. And yet, you can kind of understand it because Dick and Dom already are characters. If you don't know, these are a British TV personality from when I was a child. I don't actually know if they resonate with a young audience now. I don't know if today's children know who Dick and Dom are. They're much more likely to know Hannah Lowther from TikTok. But then I guess the casting people for this pantomime are covering all of their bases. And Dick and Dom being called Dick and Dom is necessitated by the script because there are a lot of, not Dom jokes, the other one. And this is one of my big issues with this show, is there are just too many characters, because we're introduced to all these people in the castle, and they don't have much stage time. We meet Matthew Kelly as the pantomime dame Nurse Nellie, and the panto dame is meant to be a big feature of the pantomime. It's meant to be this sort of clownish character in the Nurse Nellie role in Snow White. But then you also have Oddjob, who is similarly buffoonish, and they facilitate very similar roles in the script. And you also have Dick and Dom, who are already doubling up on the sort of Buttons type best friend character, and it just feels like we have twice as many friends for Snow White as we need. She seems like this very popular princess and everything's going well for her, and that's really not where we ought to be in the script. Like, I know the Queen wants to kill her, and that's not ideal, but like, it could be going a lot worse. Eventually, Nurse Nellie actually comes back on stage and the audience goes, oh yes, I remember there's a dame in this pantomime. And eventually Prince Lee comes back, and eventually you cycle through people enough to remember that they're all there. And then about 45 minutes in, someone mentions the dwarfs, and I think to myself, oh god, I'd forgotten there were dwarfs in this pantomime. There's just so many characters that we don't really get to meet them all. And they insist on trying to give personalities to all these different dwarves because that's the Disney way of things. And generally speaking, I don't think they are divorced enough from the Disney version of Snow White. But there is not nearly enough time in this script for anyone to get a personality, so we end up with what little personality the script can afford being spread thinly amongst everyone. Oh gosh, there's another character I didn't even mention. So Brenda Edwards is the spirit of pantomime. Don't get me started on this. Brenda Edwards is a phenomenal talent. She's very funny, but the script gives her no opportunities to be funny. Occasionally she gets to deliver lines in a Jamaican accent, which is not her character's normal speaking voice, but it gets a laugh, so, you know, panto, it works. But every time she comes on stage, and I mean every time she comes on stage, she sings the same song. I'm going to tell you about this in the music section, but literally what she does, she walks on stage and she will sing this song, and that is basically her entire character. And there's just too many people. There's too many people in this pantomime, and it becomes an issue. So I mentioned the music as well, and I've said a couple things in that previous section. I said it's not divorced enough from the Disney version, and to that end, they include 4 different songs from Disney's Snow White. And I challenge you now to pause this video and even name for me 4 songs from Disney's Snow White, because I couldn't have when I sat down for this pantomime. I'd have thought, yes, sure, Hi-Ho, that's in there. Someday My Prince Will Come, that's in there as well. Then you have to think for a bit and you go, oh yes, Whistle While You Work. And then I'd have really struggled for a 4th Snow White song. But thankfully they reprise it constantly, and they use this music for just about every single scene change, and it's with a smile and a song. I mean, I do appreciate that at the end we get this sort of Disney parade version that's like, with a smile and a song, da 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 da. But there's a lot of Disney, and one of my favourite things about pantomime is the way that they use modern pop songs and songs of yesteryear in a camp and funny and ironic parody way. I'm not going to a panto to see legitimate Disney songs. You may as well be staging a legitimate version of Disney's Snow White. It can go on the West End with Beauty and the Beast and Frozen. That's not what a pantomime ought to be. So the fact we're using 4 songs from Disney's Snow White and reprising one of them constantly was odd. It made me feel as though they had to pay for these songs, they'd bought some sort of a package, and they were damn well going to use them, rather than just avoiding any Disney songs whatsoever. The other songs, you did have a couple of TikTok moments. This was the second pantomime I've seen in as many weeks that used the Lizzo song, About Damn Time. Interestingly, they didn't include the little TikTok viral section that in a minute, I'm gonna need a sentimental man or woman, because if you go to the end of that section, there are words in that you can't say in front of children. Now, Lyric Hammersmith used this one in Jack and the Beanstalk, but they changed the lyrics. New Wimbledon, I guess, decided they didn't want to be dealing with that, and so they completely cut it, although it's hilarious to me that they included it because the kids would know it, but they didn't include the lyrics that the kids definitely know, because the reason the kids know it is because of that TikTok bit. So that was hysterical to me when you stop and think about it, but I get why they've made that decision. So they used About Damn Time, and they also used, I'm not going to know the name of it because I don't know viral TikTok songs, but ooh, I'm blinded by the light, that somehow became a romantic duet between Snow White and the Prince. It's panto, and I'm not about to judge how you use these songs. I think that's genius in its stupidity. And Brenda Edwards kept singing, and I'm not against this, but Finding Wonderland from the Frank Wildhorn musical and Broadway flop Wonderland, but instead of Wonderland it was Pantoland, which just, I don't like as an expression, but she would literally just keep coming back on stage and start singing Finding Pantoland, and when she sang it for the 4th time, Aaron, my boyfriend, was sat next to me, and I believe I slapped him on the leg in disbelief. that this was still happening. It was completely incredulous that they would have her sing this song. Not her fault, of course, but that they would have her sing this song so many times. She sounded fantastic, it was great, but she literally just kept singing the same song. Now, there was some music I did like. It was fewer and farther between, but there was some music that I did like. And I'm going to tell you about this in the next section when I talk to you about highlights of the show. So like I've mentioned, there were some sections of this show that really did work for me and really hit that pantomime sweet spot. Dick and Dom and a lot of their material really works in a pantomime setting, and this was the first panto I've seen this year that did a 12 Days of Christmas number, which I really enjoy. Now, it kept stopping. It wasn't clear if these were like planned stops for when it was going wrong, and it was deliberate going wrong, so they could go out into the audience and do funny little things, but it felt like it stopped and started too many times. It just lost the momentum of what it ought to be, because the charm of it is the actors trying to keep up with a legitimately challenging thing on stage as they're running around each other and grabbing all of these props. And I wanted more of the props to do things. You had water pistols and toilet roll that got flung into the audience quite early on, and then a lot of the later ones just didn't do anything. I wanted more engaging and interactive props. Some of my favourite sections of this pantomime, as well as Dick and Dom stuff, was John Archer as Oddjob. I'm going to talk more about individual performances in just a moment, but his material was really fun and was really great, and he spoke really well to the adults in the audience, but he also had a whole section where he brought a child on stage and had a really great rapport with this legitimately very sassy, like, 11-year-old. But he was perfect for panto, and the tone of everything he was doing fit very well. My favourite moments, however, my absolute favourite moments, belongs to Ruthie Henshall as the evil queen. Now, she had this introductory number where she's being carried around by the ensemble. She's giving you all of her Chicago-esque choreography and her villainy and her divaness, which is not a word, but don't at me. And she was, of course, singing Billie Eilish's Bad Guy, because why would you not get your panto villainess to sing Bad Guy? And then it gets even better, because when she is transforming and concocting a potion to kill Snow White and make a poison apple in the second act, they let her do I Put a Spell on You. And they did an extended version that repeats the chorus. And obviously it was the Hocus Pocus-esque I Put a Spell on You. Again, perfect for a pantomime villain, which only made me more frustrated that you understand, like, the camp panto necessity so well in those two songs, and then for the rest of it we're just going to do traditional Disney. It felt like if you had maintained that same level of ridiculous extra musicality throughout the rest of the pantomime, then I'd have probably loved the whole thing. Okie dokie, so let's talk about the cast of this pantomime, because I had such high hopes, and I wasn't really disappointed with any of them, but John Archer was comedically a standout, because, as the kids would say, he understood the assignment, and statistically, he landed the most jokes, he got the most laughs. Matthew Kelly as a dame, once he returned to the stage, I really enjoyed, and I liked his persona, but he just didn't have as much material as you would expect a pantomime dame to have, because he was really sharing that role within the narrative with John Archer as Oddjob. So that felt like an odd choice, and it felt like Matthew Kelly was the one who got sidelined by that, and John Archer came out of that arrangement a little bit better off. Dick and Dom worked. They were Dick and Dom. I was never particularly into them as a concept when I was younger, because I found it a little bit cringy, but, you know, it was fun, and they were the most engaged with the audience, and I wanted more of that, so I was leaning into the Dick and Dom aspects of the show because I wanted more audience participation, and there wasn't as much as I had been hoping for. Over to the musical theatre people. So Hannah Lowther was lovely. I liked in the beginning because she was getting to be a little bit more of an independent princess, but then she just became more blandly princessy per the script. Not her fault. Neither is the wig that they forced her to wear. Bless her. There are better Snow White wigs out there. Go to Disneyland Paris and check out the ones they have available. I don't know who in pantomime keeps giving Snow White a fringe, but it's not a choice that you have to keep making, people. I also wanted her to be able to do more TikTok-y stuff. I feel like they underestimate how big of a star Hannah Lowther actually is within those circles. Like, I wanted her fronting company numbers and doing more viral TikTok choreography. She got to do a little bit in the whole Blinded by the Lights, if that's the song I was describing earlier. Oh, I'm blinded by the lights. I think that's what that's called. She got to do a bit in that, but I wanted her to do more TikTok-y stuff Even if you don't think that that has a place in panto or on stage, I think that would have been camp and cute and funny. Like, let her lean into more of herself and bring more of her personality to it. I want her to be able to relax into the role and just have fun. I want to see people having fun in pantomime. Mead was princely and charming and charismatic. Controversially, is he a little bit old to be playing opposite Hannah Lowther at this point in his career? Possibly. When you have Ruthie Henshall as the queen debating with him as to which of them he ought to prefer, and he's saying, obviously I will marry Snow White, there's a part of me that goes, is that obvious? Is it obvious to everyone in the room that you're more likely to marry Snow White than the evil queen here? I have to ask these questions, because if I'm not, then who else will? He did get to sing Any Dream Will Do, and I feel like because that's the way he is known to the nation after the Joseph Casting television programme. Again, if you're not familiar, Mead was cast for a West End revival of Joseph in 2007 via a TV talent show, and he was voted as Joseph by the nation, so everyone wants him to sing Any Dream Will Do, and everyone was quite delighted when he did. Dick and Dom kept making interjections in between every line. It was meant to be a comedy bit where they were like, oh god, he's singing this song again, I wish he'd stop. And that wasn't getting laughs because the audience was just legitimately happy to have him sing the song and that he was doing it in the panto. So that was a weird choice. And like, they could put a couple of sides in, but for at least 2 verses, they kept saying something in between every line, like, I close my eyes, comedy line, drew back the curtain, comedy line. It was just too much, it wasn't landing, and it was a little bit awkward. Ruthie Henshall is a damn queen on and off the stage. I loved her commanding choreography, embracing all of the, like, magic and transformation that she has to do, giving you camp and commitment and perfect pantomime villainess. Loved everything about her. And like I said before with Brenda Edwards, sings fantastically and is really funny in the few fleeting moments she gets to be funny. I wish the script gave Brenda Edwards more of an opportunity to be funny. But those have been my thoughts about Snow White at the new Wimbledon Theatre. Like I said, it had its shortcomings. There was some stuff that I did enjoy, but I hope I've explained to you why I was maybe a little bit disappointed by this pantomime. And yet, I'm sure there are plenty of people who have gone who had a great time, who thought it was the best thing that they had seen. So if you've seen Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs at the new Wimbledon Theatre, and particularly if you enjoyed it, let us know why down in the comments section. Let's spread a little positivity, just a little alternative to what I had to say in today's video. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure to subscribe to my Stagey YouTube channel for plenty more content coming very soon, including more reviews and probably more pantomime, because there's always more pantomime in December. If you really enjoyed today's video, you can use the super thanks button down below to give me a little tip. That very much helps me to keep making regular content as a Stagey content creator. I hope that everyone is staying safe and that you have a Stagey day.
For 10 more seconds, I'm Mickey Joe Theatre. Oh my god, hey. Thanks for watching, have a stagey day. Subscribe!